This is going to be the 8th grade test review for our Unit 3 test coming up on Wednesday. I'm going to start going through these with you guys. I'm not going to completely answer these questions, but I'm going to lead you to it. It'll be up to you guys to figure out the rest from there. If you have questions, you'll have to ask me individually. Number 1 says, Trisha and Melanie are both saving money for their summer vacations. They began saving at the same time. Trisha started with $10.25 and adds $5.15 to her savings every month. I'm going to go ahead and mention these two numbers. So this very first part, she starts with this amount. So that does not require any X's or anything else. That's not going to repeat. It happens one time. The $5.15, she says, adds to it every month. So we're talking about something that's going to be repeating, and we're going to be adding to it. Melanie did not have a starting amount, but adds $10.25 to her savings every month. So again, it's kind of similar. We got to make sure we keep these numbers correct for who we are talking about. This person didn't start with anything, but they are saving $10.25 every month. We're supposed to write an equation that could be used to determine how many months it will take before Trisha and Melanie have saved the same amount of money. Well, starting with Trisha and Melanie. So we've got Trisha and Melanie. So I'm going to do Trisha over here in blue, and we'll do Melanie over here in red, which actually means that I need to go change my colors that I highlighted in. This is supposed to be, oh, no, it's not. Trisha is going to be, sorry, I'm making sure I'm doing this correctly. We've got Trisha here in blue, so I'm changing that to blue. And then this is Melanie over here on the right side. We're going to change that to red because I need to keep these two straight. Trisha's starting with the $10.25. So that happens one time. You're going to want to set an equal sign between these two because we want to know when they both have the same amount. Our equation is going to look like this. Trisha's stuff and then Melanie's stuff. So on the left side, we're going to have the $10.25, and we are adding $5.15 every month. Our X or M or whatever letter you want to use will represent every month. And then Melanie's, because she didn't start with anything in the month, but she's still going to have that $10.25. I'm not sure why I wrote a 13, or at least that was supposed to be a 5. $10.25 is going to happen every month. There's just no starting point there because she starts with 0. If it really bugs you, you could have a plus 0 there, but that's not necessary to write. I'm going to leave it up to you guys to figure out the rest on Trisha's part. For number 2, Eddie compared prices of 2 auto rental agencies for the use of a midsize auto for 1 week. Right Price Auto charged a flat fee of $386 plus 20 cents per mile driven. Econocar charged a flat rate fee of $344 plus 35 cents per mile driven. And we're going to write the equation just kind of like we did before. I'm going to do the same thing. I'll be a little more careful with my colors this time around. We're talking about Right Price Auto. I'm going to call this RP, Right Price. We've got to come up with our equation for them. The flat fee happens one time with that $386. We also have our plus 20 cents per driven mile. The 20 cents, you got to be really careful. Whenever you're writing that out for your equation, you're going to want to do that 0.20. I would use that for that instead. Otherwise, that could get real confusing if you make it look like dollars. So we've got Right Price Auto. We've got enough information to write out the equation. But now we've got to do Econocar, so I'm going to do this part in red. These guys are charging the flat fee of $344 plus 35 cents per, I'm going to guess that's driven mile over there. Again, we're going to need this 35 cents as 0.35, otherwise it won't make near as much sense in our equation. So again, that was called Econocar. We'll call them EC over here. So you guys are just setting up an equation that looks kind of the same. You're just doing it down here on the bottom with your equal sign. You'll have Right Price Auto on the left, Econocar on the right. And that you know that your miles or per or X or whatever letter you want to use is going to be the thing that keeps repeating. Now take a look at number 3. Charles and Victor went to a comic book store and purchased some comic books. Charles purchased C comic books for $12.50 each. I'm going to go ahead and mark that. We'll stick with red for our first person. So $12.50 each. And then spent $25 on a comic book portfolio. I'm guessing that's some kind of, I don't know, kind of like a collector's doohickey. Victor sold, so now we're talking about Victor, so I'm going to do this in blue. He sold a vintage comic book, which means he's getting money back, to the store for $95. So that dude got $95 and then purchased Seymour comic books for $22.50 each. And then how many comic books, let's see, C, would each boy purchase if Charles' total amount due is greater than or equal to Victor's total? All right, this is going to get a little tricky on this one because we were talking about a greater than or equal to. And that is going to be this symbol right there, okay? And we want Charles to be larger. So I'm going to go ahead and write down my symbol. That's what our symbol is going to look like on this one because it's greater than or equal to. We're going to have Charles over here on the left side, and we are going to have Victor over here on the right. We're going to have to do a little bit of backwards thinking on this one because of the way they phrase some stuff, and we're also trying to get a total for the amount due after they pay. So starting with just Charles, I know usually so far I haven't been working these out for you, but this one's pretty tough. This guy, first thing he purchased, and we're trying to get a total, was $12.50. So for Charles, I'm going to go ahead and write that $12.50. He purchased $12.50 worth of stuff, and that happened one time. Oh, no, I'm sorry, each. It's for each comic book. So X is going to represent my number of comic books. And he also spent $25 on a comic book portfolio. So here we are going to have plus 25. So all in red, this is just for Charles. $12.50 per comic book plus $25 for that comic book portfolio. And we know that Charles spent more, or that we want him to spend more, greater than or equal to Victor's total. So now we're going to take a look at Vicky over here. Vicky, let's see, what did he do? Let's start with his comic books. He's buying them for $22.50. $22.50 each. That's going to be for each comic book. That's because we're trying to get a total. But he sold his vintage comic book for $95, which means he's going to get $95 off of his total. If you're not sure why we're subtracting, you might want to come ask me on this one-on-one because that's pretty tough. The fact is, we're trying to get a total for both guys, but for Victor, he sold that comic book to get money. So he's getting that $95 off of his total amount, which is why we're subtracting. Usually whenever you make money, it's a good thing, but this situation is a little backwards on this. Like I said, ask questions if you got them, and I will come help you out. Number 4, pretty straightforward. We are just solving for X. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what we usually do. Draw our line down the middle. And I always want you guys starting with the smaller variable. Between 6x and negative x is the smaller one. So I'm going to add an x on both sides to get rid of it. These two will cancel out, and I'm done with it. On the left side, I'm left with 6x plus x, so I have a total of 7 x's over here, plus 1. And on the right side, I have my negative 27. Now I just have a two-step equation. Kind of zoom in a little bit, change colors. Still trying to get everything away from the variable, so I need to get rid of that 1. So I'm going to subtract 1 on both sides. These two will cancel out. On the left side, I'm left with 7x equals, and then I have negative 27 minus 1. So I'm going to have negative 28. If you are not sure, please check it in your calculator. And the last part here is I've got to get my x completely by itself, so I'm going to divide, because that's multiplication right there, both sides by 7. Those two cancel out, and then x equals negative 28 divided by 7 is going to give us a negative 4. On to the next part, number 5. Oops, making marks that I don't mean to. Another multi-step equation. So, like always, draw the line down the middle and start with the smaller variable. Between 15x and 14x, 14 is clearly smaller. So I'm going to subtract 14x on both sides. And make sure that you guys, whatever you're doing subtraction, make sure that you're lining up x's. Because it cannot go with the other numbers that don't have x's. It's like apples and oranges. All right, so these end up canceling out. On the left side, I'm left with a single x. I could put 1x if I really want to, but I'm not going to bother with it. And it's going to be equal to my 13 on the right side. I've only got one step left. I've got to get rid of that minus 8, so I'm going to do opposite with plus 8. These two cancel out. I'm left with x on the left and 13 plus 8 15 plus 8, if I can make that work, is going to be 21. Okay, number 6 is massively intimidating and looks a whole heck of a lot like the one that is on the test. I'm not a huge fan of models. I honestly do not like them. I think they're pretty terrible, but this is actually a question from a STAAR test a couple years ago, so I've got to make sure you guys are prepped for this kind of thing. The funny thing about this problem is you don't necessarily have to look at the model. Like, actually, I'm going to avoid it entirely. So number 6, it says 2 teams of students were assigned to measure a hallway, each using stick of the same length. Team A measured the length of the hallway as 6 sticks plus 18 units. Team B measured the length of the hallways as 8 units less than 8 sticks. Bizarre. Grace wrote the equation 6x plus 18 equals 8x minus 8 to represent the problem situation where x represents the length of the sticks in units. Then she used algebra tiles to solve the equation as shown below. Draw what step 5 would look like using algebra tiles. Good lord. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of show you what's going on here. I'm not even worried about the algebra tiles because look here at the top. Every single one of these has the equation written out and the steps that they're following. So you can kind of look at it with the algebra tiles and figure it out from there, and then figure out what the answers would look like. So I'm going to kind of walk through the steps just to see what she did. So there's the equation that she came up with originally. And actually, hang on a second. I need to clarify what each thing is just so you guys are aware. Here's my 6x. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 x's on the left, plus my 18 units. Well, if I count these up, this is 3 by 6. Those are all 18 units right there. That's where that came from. On the right side, I've got my 2, 4, 6, 8 x's. And then I also have my 8 units, except they're negative units. So those, actually, I guess I should use a different color for this, negative units. Those are my 8 negative units right there. So here's how I'm going to go about this one. I can look and I can kind of follow the steps. Looks like they end up subtracting 8. Is that what they did? No, they added 8 on both sides. Here, like, this is a big old long complicated problem. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go and look at that final step. If I were doing this, well, our goal is to get everything on one side. They did it differently than we usually would. They have a 6x over here and an 8x over here. Well, we've got to get all those 6x's together. So what I would want you to do is I'd subtract 6x on this side, 6x, and I would subtract 6x on this side. Come test time, step 5 is going to have something showing 6x's. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to modify this side over here. Instead of redrawing step 5, you guys can do the exact same thing. To show that I'm subtracting 6x's, what I have to do is I have to have my minus 6x on both sides. So I'm just going to kind of jump to it real quick so you guys can see what it would look like. So what I've done here is I've got my negative x's, or minus 6x, on both sides, represented by each one of those little boxes. That's pretty much what step 5 would look like. Exactly what we have there, but we're subtracting 6x's on both sides. The whole point of doing that is so those little boxes, because when they come together, they cancel each other out. That's the whole purpose of that, because we need the x's gone on that side. Same thing on this side. We'd have pairs, like I'm going to take out 3 over here on this side. I take out 3 over here on this side, because those would cancel out. But like I said, you guys are going to have, this is multiple choice, so you guys are going to be able to just take a look at it. I would look at just the numbers and figure out what you need to do, and then figure out which drawing shows you. Now, if you have any questions on this one, please do ask, because I know this one's very, very confusing. Now to go on to number 7. Laura is a chemist working with liquids and solutions. She has 2 large cylinder barrels that can hold up to 2,000 liters each. The first barrel contains 900 liters of solution, and the second barrel contains 100 liters of solution. Laura begins draining the first barrel at a rate of 36 liters per minute. So here's what I'm going to kind of, we're going to go through and start marking stuff. So we're talking about first barrel. So I'm going to do first barrel in red. It contains 900 liters of the solution. And then second barrel is 100 liters of the solution. So I've got my red and my blue. And then Laura begins draining the first barrel, so back to red, at a rate of 36 liters per minute. Because she is draining it, we're going to be talking about subtraction on this one. At the same time, she begins filling. That's very, very important. She's filling the second barrel. Laura fills the second barrel with 44 liters of solution every minute. So we're talking about the same rates on both of these. I know this one over here said per minute. This one says every minute. Same darn thing. I'm going to use M for my variable on this one. So it pretty much says write an inequality that represents the seconds when the second barrel contains a greater or equal amount of solution than the first barrel. So I'm going to do barrel 1 on the left side. Just call it B1. On the right side, I'm going to call it barrel 2. And we want to know when the second barrel is greater than or equal to, meaning that everything on that side's got to be larger, okay? So going back to the first barrel contains 900 liters or milliliters or whatever it was, liters. And it says it is draining, so we're subtracting 36 per minute, 36 liters per minute. The right side, I'm not going to write this one out because I expect you guys to figure this part out. It has 100 liters of solution, and she is adding 44 liters of solution every minute. I think you guys can figure that out from there. Come test time, if you want highlighters of different colors or whatever else, please let me know because I will make sure I will find some for you. Now to get these last 5 knocked out real quick. Number 8, Mark's mother is planning to borrow $25,000 to remodel at the restaurant she owns. She contacted several loan companies and she's comparing 2 different options. Company 1 offers an interest rate of 5.25%. Company 2 offers an interest rate of 8.25%. I already know that I'm going to be using a formula of some kind, and the formulas we always use always have us shift the decimal over 2 places. So that 5.25%, I'm going to go ahead and move that decimal over 2 places. I'm going to put my big old decimal right there. So I'm going to make that 0.0525. On this one right here, I'm going to move it over 2 places. Going to put my decimal right there. And now I don't have to worry about forgetting about that part. So now for the rest of it. It says both loan options involve simple interest. Guys, make sure you know whether you are dealing with simple or compound interest. It says simple, so it's going to be our interest will equal PRT, principal times rate times time, and must be repaid in exactly 3 years. So now we know T. Oops, if I can make that. There's our T for 3 years. And actually, we knew the principal up here. There's our principal for our $25,000. So now for the actual question. How much more will Mark's mother pay in interest if she chooses to borrow the money from company 2? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the I equals PRT. So I'm going to do company 1. I'll do company 1 in blue. So it's going to be our $25,000 for our principal. Our rate, I already forgot, is at 0.0525. 0.0525. I'm using parentheses. You can use a time sign. I don't really care. And then it said it must be repaid in exactly 3 years. So there's my 3. That's going to come out to an amount. Now for company 2, it's still going to be $25,000. That has not changed. And our rate for this guy was 0.085. 0.085, and still for 3 years. Pretty much we just want to know how much more one makes than the other. So all we're doing is we're going to work these 2 problems out using your calculator. Heck, if you're at home right now and you need to do this on your phone, do it on your phone because that's actually what I'm doing. You're going to find these 2 amounts, whatever these 2 are, and you are going to find the difference between these 2. Once you found the difference, that's going to be the answer that you guys are looking for. On to number 9. Mr. Filch needs to get a loan to replace the air conditioning system in his home. The cost of the replacement, including installation, is $4,348. He can apply for a 5-year loan or a 3-year loan. Both loans involve simple interest, which is awesome because that's much easier to work with an annual interest rate of 6.5%. I'm going to go ahead and move that over. So I'm going to move my decimal. I'm going to move it over 2 places. So this is going to be 0.065. I'm going to mark that this is my rate. And actually we know the time too. There's the time, 5 years. I read it and forgot about it. If Mr. Filch applies for the 5-year loan, how much more interest will he pay than with a 3-year loan? Same exact thing as the problem above. We've got one with a 5-year, one with a 3-year. Oh, and I even didn't mark my principal here either, did I? So I'm going to do the 5-year loan in red, and I'll do the 3-year loan in blue. So it's $4,348. So 4,300. I just said it and I already forgot it. $48. That's my principal times my rate. Both of them have the same rate, 0.065. And the time for this first one is 5 years. The time for the second one is going to be 3 years. So it's that $4,348. Same exact interest rate. And then this will be the 3-year loan. You're going to find out the amount for that one, find out the amount for that one. And again, it wants to know how much more is one than the other. So you're going to get an amount here. You'll get an amount here. Subtract and find the difference between the two loans. Number 10. Damon's father started a college fund on Damon's 8th birthday. He deposited $7,500. I already know my principal. Into a CD, certificate of deposit, that yields an interest rate of 0.23. We still have to move this decimal 2 places to the left. So I'm going to go over 1, 2 places. So my interest rate is going to be 0.0023 compounded annually. That's very important. You guys have got to know that formula. Actually, you don't have to have this one memorized. I'll supply it, plus it's on your star chart. But the big difference is it's the total amount that it's going to give us whenever we work this one out. And our formula will be that principal 1 plus the rate to the power of time, for whoever got to hear me say that terribly. It says, how much money will the CD be worth when Damon turns 18 years old? So what's nice about that, it wants to know how much it's worth total with interest and everything. So again, we're just going to plug it into the equation, and whatever we get out of the calculator, that's it. All right, so our principal was going to be that $7,500. So 7,500. We're going to do 1 plus our rate was 0.0023. Very small rate, but that adds up after a while. And he did this. Okay, now here is the trick. We don't know the time. They don't spell it out for us. If he started on Damon's 8th birthday and he is now turning 18 years old, 10 years have gone by. You've got to be really careful about that. And that's going to give you the total amount, which is actually what we're looking for right there. So be really careful. Make sure you guys know where that 10 came from. If you got any questions, please ask. All right, just a couple more and then we're done. Number 11, over 2 years, how much more will a savings account with a simple interest rate of 4.2% yield in earnings than a savings account with a simple interest rate of 3.5% if the original balance of both accounts is $2,200? Okay, same basic gig. Take the percents, move them over 2 places, over 1, 2. So this first account is going to be 0.042. The other one, oops, keep making marks, I don't mean to. Move it over 2 places, so over 1, 2. There's my decimal, 0.035. They gave us, there's our principal, that $2,200. And now our time says over 2 years. Didn't give us a number, so you gotta watch out for that kind of stuff. It's pretty much the same thing as, what numbers were those? 8 and 9. Same exact thing. So I'll do one in red, I'll do one in blue. We've got $2,200. That's going to be for both of those setups. It's because we're using I equals PRT. Our rate is going to be, hang on, let me make sure I'm using the right one, 0.042%. And this can be over 2 years. Pardon the handwriting, I'm doing this on my phone again. Next one is going to be 0.035 for another 2 years. We want to know how much more one is than the other. So I've got I'm going to find out a total amount here. I'm going to get a total amount here. And you will be subtracting those to get your answer. All right, final one. Please do not miss this one on the test. Oh, I said final one. There's a 13 down there that I have not noticed up till now. Mike wants to borrow $11,500 for home improvements. He was considering a 3-year loan option represented by that whole thing, or a two-year loan option represented by that whole thing. Where A in both equations represents the total cost of repaying the loan, which loan option should Mike choose in order to repay the least amount of money? Pretty much throw these two formulas that they hand you into the calculator and figure out which one is smaller. in case you didn't see them or aren't actually listening to this video, there's one equation for you, there's the other equation for you. There's nothing to figure out other than throw it in the calculator and figure out which one is going to charge you the least. It's either going to be option A or option B. Oh, but it's not actually option A, option B. It's 3-year loan and 2-year loan. So plug those in and figure that out for yourself. Number 13, it's just a 2-step equation. So I'm going to draw my line down the middle. We're going to start with the smaller variable on both sides. So we've got 7x and 10x. So I'm going to minus the 7x because it is smaller. I want to move the smaller one first. If I didn't move the smaller one, it would be fine. I could work it out. But it's much easier if I just go ahead and... negatives suck. Nobody actually likes negatives. So I'm left with negative 4 on the left side. Speaking of negatives, 10x minus 7x is going to be 3x plus 14. Now we're down to a 2-step equation. I'm going to subtract 14 on both sides. These two will cancel out. And actually, because at this point you should know darn well how to do this, especially if you're listening, but you may not be. It'll be negative 4 minus 14 on the left side and 3x on the right side. You have one more step to follow after that. I want you guys to figure that part out for yourself. If you have questions, come ask me, guys.